Today, we're about to attempt what Bugatti think is impossible.
Can't do that in a garage. There's just a few places in the world with the right equipment and only a few people in the world with the right training to be able to do that.
Quiet workshop in northern England. A phone call nobody can confirm, and one of the biggest hypercar CEOs on the planet allegedly on the other end of the line, according to whispers, spreading through private supercar circles. Christian von Koenigsegg may have personally contacted Mat Armstrong after Mat's viral Bugatti rebuilds shocked the hypercar world. No screenshots, no confirmation, just silence, and a rumor that refuses to disappear. But this story may be about far more than a secret phone call. Beneath the speculation lies a growing battle between factory control and independent creators, a conflict that could reshape the future of the hypercar industry forever. Inside, the rumor that wouldn't die. It started, as these things usually do, in the corners of the internet where the real conversations happen. Not Twitter, not Instagram. We're talking about private Discord servers, members-only car forums, and the closed Telegram groups where hypercar dealers, factory insiders, and supercar restoration specialists actually talk to each other when nobody else is listening. According to multiple sources familiar with these communities, the first mention of the alleged phone call surfaced sometime in early 2024. It was a single message posted by an anonymous account claiming that Christian von Koenigsegg had personally reached out to Mat Armstrong. No details, no screenshots, just a single line dropped into a high-level discussion thread, and then the account went silent. Now normally, that's where these things end. Random internet claims get dismissed. The thread moves on. Life continues. But this one didn't go away. Within weeks, the same rumor allegedly appeared in 3 other private communities. Different accounts, slightly different phrasings, but the core claim was identical. Christian had called Mat. Speculation in hypercar circles claims that at least one of those accounts belonged to someone with verified ties to a Bugatti dealership network. Another supposedly came from a former Koenigsegg adjacent contractor. We cannot independently confirm any of this, but the pattern was unusual. What made the rumor harder to dismiss was the timing. It surfaced shortly after Mat had completed his Veyron rebuild, the project that made him a legend in the rebuild world. It also coincided with a quieter period in Koenigsegg's public communications. Christian wasn't doing many interviews. The factory was deep in production cycles, and somewhere in that silence, according to whispers,
welcome everyone to the Dream Factory. Yeah, Ferrari's got its famous branded archway at the factory in Maranello, but Koenigsegg has some flags and a white door in a place called Ängelholm in Sweden. But behind that door, they make the very fastest cars in the world.
A phone call happened that nobody was supposed to know about. Here's where it gets crazy. The rumor spread to a few automotive journalists, who reportedly reached out to both camps for confirmation. Neither side denied it. Neither side confirmed it. The responses were vague, almost careful, as if everyone involved was trying very hard to neither lie nor admit anything. And in the hypercar world, that kind of silence usually means one thing. We kept hearing the same story from different sources, each unaware the others were talking. That's a pattern that's hard to fake. Internet myths usually mutate as they spread. Names change, details shift. The story gets bigger with every retelling. This one didn't. The core remained eerily consistent. Christian called Mat. They spoke for a while. And whatever was said reportedly mattered enough that both sides decided to stay quiet about it. So the question becomes, why would a man like Christian von Koenigsegg pick up the phone for a YouTuber in the first place? That's where this story gets really interesting. Koenigsegg x Armstrong. The hidden link. Look, to understand why this rumor isn't as crazy as it sounds, you have to understand who Christian von Koenigsegg actually is. And honestly, He's not like other car company CEOs. Christian founded Koenigsegg back in 1994 in Ängelholm, a small town in southern Sweden. He was 22 years old. He had a dream of building the ultimate hypercar. And instead of getting funded by Volkswagen Group, instead of inheriting a 100-year-old factory like Ferrari or Lamborghini, he built the entire thing from scratch, slowly, painfully, one car at a time. Today, Koenigsegg is famous for one thing above all else: engineering independence.
My name is Christian von Koenigsegg. For half of my life, I've been on the quest to be a leader in the hypercar industry, utilizing Swedish design combined with visionary technical solutions.
While other manufacturers outsource most of their components, Koenigsegg builds almost everything in-house. The engines, the carbon fiber, the transmissions, the unique door hinges that make their cars look like they're opening into another dimension. Christian has spoken openly in interviews about why this matters to him. It's not about saving money, it's about freedom. About not being chained to suppliers, about being able to invent things nobody else has invented yet. And here's where it connects to Mat. Because Mat Armstrong's Veyron rebuild was, in its own way, a statement about the exact same philosophy. Mat proved that you don't need the factory to keep a hypercar alive. He sourced parts independently. He developed his own repair processes. He bypassed Bugatti's grip on the Veyron and brought one back from the dead, on camera, for the world to see. In other words, Mat lives Christian's philosophy in a completely different form. One man builds hypercars without depending on traditional manufacturers. The other rebuilds them without depending on the original factory. Same spirit, different lane now. Consider Koenigsegg's history with Bugatti. In 2017, a Koenigsegg Agera RS hit 277.87 miles per hour on a closed stretch of highway in Nevada, shattering the production car top speed record that Bugatti had held with the Veyron Supersport.
Koenigsegg did it again. Their Agera RS hit an impressive time over the weekend, and when I say impressive, I mean really fast. The car ran an average speed of 277.9 miles per hour.
Bugatti responded with their own record attempt using a modified Chiron a couple of years later, but the dynamic was set. Koenigsegg, a tiny Swedish company producing a handful of cars per year, had publicly beaten the king, and Christian wasn't done. The Jesko Absolute, Koenigsegg's later flagship, was engineered with simulations pointing to a theoretical top speed north of 330 miles per hour. Whether or not it ever runs that number for real, the message was clear. Christian sees Bugatti not as a partner, not as a rival, as something he wants to surpass completely, in every measurable category. So when you ask why Christian would call a YouTuber who just embarrassed Bugatti by rebuilding their hypercar without their permission, the question almost answers itself. If these reports are accurate, this wouldn't be a casual call. It would be one rebel reaching out to another. Two men, on different continents, in completely different industries, recognizing in each other something that the rest of the automotive world doesn't fully understand yet. But what was actually said? That's where the real mystery begins. This is what they say was discussed. Now we have to be extremely careful here, because this is where rumor and speculation get the most aggressive. And we want to be honest with you about what we actually know versus what people are saying. Sources suggest the alleged conversation lasted somewhere around 30 to 40 minutes. We cannot confirm that. What we can say is that, according to whispers in hypercar circles, the call was substantive. This wasn't a quick, "Hey, great job on the rebuild" moment. The themes that allegedly came up were big, philosophical, and industry-defining. The first reported topic, according to unverified industry chatter, was hypercar repair independence. The idea that owners of multi-million-dollar cars should not be entirely dependent on a single factory for service, parts, and restoration. This is a topic touched on publicly in different forms over the years. The importance of long-term ownership viability, the question of what happens to hypercars decades down the line, the role of independent specialists in keeping these machines alive. The second alleged theme was the future of supercar ownership itself. Speculation in hypercar circles claims that the conversation explored how manufacturers in the luxury automotive space have become more controlling, not less, over time. The contracts have gotten stricter. The NDAs have gotten longer. The factory-only narratives have gotten louder. And the question reportedly raised was, what happens when an entire generation of hypercar buyers wakes up to this and decides they want something different? The third reported theme was, perhaps the most pointed, factory monopolies on parts. The way certain manufacturers, allegedly including Bugatti, deliberately design their cars to be repairable only by the factory. Proprietary diagnostic systems, encrypted control units, parts that cannot be sourced outside the official network. According to whispers, this was a topic that both men reportedly felt strongly about, though again, we cannot independently verify the content of the call. What we can say is this. If you look at Christian's public interviews over the past decade, every single one of these themes appears in his actual on-record statements. He has spoken about long-term hypercar viability. He has spoken about engineering independence. He has spoken about the importance of treating customers as owners, not subscribers. So if the call really happened, the alleged topics align almost perfectly with his documented worldview. That's what makes this rumor so dangerous for Bugatti, because even if the specific phone call never occurred, the philosophical alliance it represents is very real. Two of the most respected names in the hypercar world appear to share the same fundamental view about what's wrong with how factories like Bugatti operate. And once that view becomes widely accepted, the entire factory-only business model starts to look outdated. So whether or not the conversation actually happened, the way insiders claim, the implications are real. And the next part of this story is where things really turn, when silence becomes strategy. Here's the thing. If you assume, even just for a moment, that this call really happened, what does it mean for Bugatti? Now, we want to be clear. We have no insider knowledge of how Bugatti has responded internally to these rumors. We are speculating based on industry behavior patterns and publicly observable signals. But the speculation is worth walking through, because it explains why this story has been so quietly suppressed. If Christian von Koenigsegg really did reach out to Mat Armstrong, for any reason, Bugatti has every motivation to make sure the story stays a rumor and never becomes confirmed news. Because the moment it gets confirmed, the narrative shifts. Suddenly, you have the CEO of their biggest rival publicly endorsing the man who proved their hypercars could be rebuilt outside their factory. That's not a PR problem. That's an existential branding problem. Bugatti's entire value proposition rests on a specific story. The story that only Bugatti can build a Bugatti. Only Bugatti can repair a Bugatti. Only Bugatti can certify a Bugatti as authentic and roadworthy. That story is what justifies the seven-figure restoration bills. It's what justifies the long waitlists for parts. It's what justifies the cultural mystique of owning one of these machines. The moment that story cracks, a lot of money walks out the door, so speculation in hypercar circles suggests that behind the scenes, Bugatti has been doing what large luxury brands always do in these situations. Not denying, not confirming, just letting silence do the heavy lifting, while quietly making sure the rumor doesn't gain traction in mainstream press. There's a reason. No major automotive publication has run with this story as a headline. There's a reason the rumor lives in private forums and not on the front page of Top Gear's website. And honestly, that silence might be the most telling part of all. Because in the hypercar industry, Real rumors get crushed quickly. False claims about CEOs get denied, hard, within 24 hours. Lawsuits get threatened. Statements get issued. But the rumor about the Christian Mat call has done none of that. It's just been allowed to circulate quietly, in the background, like a slow leak that nobody wants to officially address. You won't believe what happened next, because while Bugatti reportedly stayed silent, Mat Armstrong's content patterns subtly shifted. His upload tone seemed to change. His commentary on Bugatti became, according to viewers who track these things,
Welcome to the Mark II channel, the second channel. You get a bit more behind the scenes. I can have a little bit of chat to you guys and we can go through literally everything in detail. For example, some of you guys were asking, when we fixed the Bugatti, I repaired this wire here on the crash sensor.
more measured, more careful, as if he was suddenly aware that everything he said about the brand carried more weight than it used to. And on the Koenigsegg side, Christian's social media activity reportedly went through a quieter phase during the same period. Connect those dots however you want. We're not telling you what to conclude. But the dots are real, and they line up in a way that's hard to ignore. If the call happened, Bugatti's silent reaction tells you everything about how seriously they took it. And what comes next? The deeper meaning of all this is the part that should really make you stop and think. The collapse of the old hypercar hierarchy. Let's zoom out, because the real importance of this story, whether or not the phone call happened exactly as described, is something much bigger than two men talking on the phone. For the last 100 years, the automotive industry has operated on a simple power dynamic. Manufacturers built cars. Customers bought cars. End of story. The factories controlled everything. The production, the parts, the service, the resale value, cultural narrative. Owners were guests in a system designed and ruled by the brands. That dynamic is changing, and it's changing faster than most people realize. What this rumor reveals, even if we never get full confirmation, is that the power in the hypercar world is quietly shifting. Away from manufacturers, toward independent voices, toward creators like Mat Armstrong, who can document a rebuild on YouTube and reach millions of people without a single permission slip from the factory. Toward rebel CEOs like Christian von Koenigsegg, who built an entire car company from scratch in a small Swedish town and now competes with brands 10 times his size. The hypercar world is no longer a closed ecosystem ruled by Molsheim and Maranello. It's an open conversation, and the people driving that conversation aren't always the people sitting in the corner offices of the legacy manufacturers. Christian, by all public accounts, has spent his entire career being the rebel CEO, the guy who refused to be acquired, the guy who refused to outsource, the guy who refused to play by industry norms. Mat, in his own much smaller way, has spent his career being the rebel rebuilder, the guy who refused to accept that hypercars belong only to the factory, the guy who refused to keep his repair processes secret. If they really did connect, it represents something larger than a phone call. It represents the formation of an idea, the idea that the future of hypercars belongs to the people willing to question the system, not the people enforcing it. And here's what should really make you sit up and pay attention. This shift isn't going away. It's accelerating. There are now dozens of independent restoration specialists building global audiences. There are smaller manufacturers, inspired by what Christian has done in Sweden, starting up in countries where supercars were never built before. There are owners who are getting smarter, asking harder questions, demanding more transparency from the brands they buy from. The era of the factory dictating the rules is ending, slowly, quietly, but undeniably. Whether or not Christian and Mat actually spoke that day, the underlying truth their alleged conversation represents is already reshaping the hypercar industry. and brands like Bugatti can either adapt to it or watch their cultural grip slip away one viral rebuild video at a time. That's the real story, not the call. The shift the call symbolizes. Did Christian von Koenigsegg really contact Mat Armstrong after the Bugatti controversy? Nobody outside the hypercar world knows for sure, but the rumor refuses to die. Behind the scenes, whispers about secret calls, industry tension, and growing fear around independent rebuild creators have been spreading through the supercar community for months. And when you look at the timing, the silence from both sides, and the growing rivalry between Bugatti and Koenigsegg, the story starts to feel a little too believable to ignore. What began as internet speculation has now evolved into one of the biggest mysteries in modern car culture, and the deeper you dig, the stranger it gets.